Hello and welcome back here in Gamescom 2016 in Cologne on the Twitch stage. I'm joined with Kelly Link, my name is Nick the Boy, and we are joined on stage from the Arcane Studios, from Dishonored 2. Guys, I'm so happy and so honored to have you here. Introduce yourselves really quick so the audience can know who you are and how long have you been working on Dishonored yet.
Yeah, so I'm Harvey Smith, co-creative director along with Rafael Colantonio at Arcane Studios, and I'm the creative director of Dishonored 2.
And I'm Sébastien Mitton, the art director at Arcane. I've been there for 12 years now.
Okay, so you guys have been working on Dishonored. You've been working on Dishonored for a long time. You've been with Deus Ex and Thief as well. You've made you've been with stealth games for a long time.
Well, it's been an amazing 23 years in video games for me. I was the lead designer of Deus Ex 1, and I worked on Deus Ex 2 as well with Warren Spector and Ion Storm Austin. It was funny because I just heard the Deus Ex guys over my shoulder talking about the new game. Wish them success. It's exciting to hear people talking about Deus Ex all these years later. I know Warren and Chris Norden and all the guys that worked on the original feel the same. But yeah, we've been working on Dishonored for quite a while now. When was it? Back in 2010, maybe a little before that, 2009, I think we started talking to Bethesda about this game that we all wanted to make together. So by the time all of this is done for us, it's almost 8 years, I guess, that we've been working on this brand that we love so much.
That's something that I've really noticed is that it seems that you guys have a lot of passion for this. And I think what a lot of fans want to know and what I want to know is, what are you most excited for in Dishonored 2?
The new city.
Yeah?
Yeah, the new setting. Yeah.
That's actually something that we were just talking about. Is in game 1, you guys are in this setting of Dunwall, which is an industrial town. It's a bit like mute colors, a bit bleak, right? But we've seen gameplay in this new setting in Dishonored 2, which is this beautiful colorscape, and it's in a Mediterranean setting. Why did you guys shift from something such industrial to something so colorful?
The idea behind this was to try to make a gift to the players by making them doing a journey inside the game and from Dishonored 1. So you start in Dunwall, you go to Karnaca, and you end in Dunwall. And this was the opportunity to create brand new stuff, new colors, a new mood, new people. And we think at Arcane in a way where we decide that these are the people from the game that create this city, so that's why we imagine the past of the cities, and when you visit it, there are lots of stories and stuff to look at.
Okay, so you're changing the atmosphere pretty much of the game, a bit from how it's looking, but it will be still quite dark. I heard there's blood flies instead of a rat plague now, so the plague has changed a bit. How's that influencing the gameplay in any way?
Yeah, so when you play Dishonored 1, you're visiting Dunwall, and it's an alt reality, right? It's our own Empire of the Isles. It's not Earth, but it's roughly parallel to 1837. And there is a terrible plague happening in Dishonored 1 called the Rat Plague. And so the city has been smashed by this plague. It's killed half the population. In Dishonored 2, you visit the Empire of the Isles 15 years later. So it's roughly 1852. Emily is grown up. She's the Empress. You see a glimpse of Dunwall at the beginning. You have a couple of missions in Dunwall. So you see the city functioning a bit, but then a terrible coup happens, and Emily is on the run down in the south. The capital in Serkonos is called Karnaca, and it's very Mediterranean inspired, as you guys mentioned.
Outside of that environment, I know that there's zones inside the specific city that when you go on your mission, you go to a specific zone. Is there a zone that you have a favorite of? I know that there's the sand zone.
The Dust District.
The Dust District. Oh
yeah. We've shown mission gameplay from the Dust District so far, playing as Emily with her powers, or playing as Corvo, who all of his powers from the first game are back, and they've all been enhanced with trees. This time at Gamescom, we're showing some new stuff that players haven't seen before from a mission called the Clockwork Mansion. And so, yeah, one of our big goals is very detailed level design. Christophe Carrier and Damien Laurent and Joachim David and Sebastian work with our narrative designer, Sashka Duval. It's a big team effort to make these levels very coherent, larger than last time, very detailed, lots of environmental storytelling. And each one has its own identity, both visually and also in terms of the lore and what's going on there. So we've shown bits of a mission called A Crack in the Slab, where you literally travel in time when the house was very nice and pristine with music and candles and guards, or in the present when it's ruined and smashed. We've shown bits of the Dust District where these randomized storms sit. There's 2 assassination targets. Every mission has a big epic theme this time, either game mechanically or fictionally. And so at Gamescom, we're showing the Clockwork Mansion.
Okay, so you brought some footage with you. I'd say we just get right into it and look at some of the stuff you brought with you, and we can see, actually from the footage and the gameplay you brought us, and well, just basically let us know, what about the level, what about the missions you're going to show and present, like what's new and what will be new for the fans, and what haven't they heard of maybe yet?
All right, yeah, let's do it. I'm pretty sure that's what they want to see.
So another thing that you're talking about in ambiance, and something that was really important for me in Game 1 is the music, right? And is there, in these settings, is it the same music director?
Yeah, so people have asked over and over. We're working with Daniel Licht, who was the composer for the series on television called Dexter. He did the music for some of the Hellraiser, enough to work with him on Dishonored 1. He's a total pro, and we're working with him on Dishonored 2 as well. And something you pointed out earlier when we were briefly discussing this is how dynamic the music is. If you're sneaking, it changes. If you're fighting, if you're starting to lose the fight, it changes. If you're in a more atmospheric spot or you're just absorbing the environment, it changes. So the music is a very dynamic system, and Daniel Licht composes so that all these pieces fit together and can be reconfigured on the fly by the code. What you're seeing here is wow, yeah, this is a bloodfly swarm, and Corvo has just possessed one of the bloodflies and is flying along.
Oh, so no rats, but bloodflies this time.
Well, we have some rats too.
Oh. So probably the most noticeable thing about this game is that you have 2 playable characters, right? You have Corvo and you have Emily, who's now 25, I believe, and you get to choose them at the start of the game. So does the gameplay vastly differ depending on who you play, or is it just their abilities?
Well, you go through the same missions either way, just to be clear about that. It's not that we made 2 sets of missions. The missions in Dishonored are crazy over the top. Like, you can go through the window, go through the back alley, go through the front door, possess a fish, and swim in the river. You can kill lots of people or literally complete the game without killing anyone. We've used a lot more vertical space this time. The missions are larger. Each one has like an urban area at the start of it for you to explore side content. There's a lot of effort put into the lore and the visual storytelling. Like, you can walk into a room and infer what's going on in the room. So there's already a ton of variation. You can play 10 times and never see the same thing. That said, Corvo and Emily are different people, and other characters react to them differently, and their backgrounds are very different, so their commentary on the world changes based on who you're playing.
Well, I know that in Game 1, depending on if you were, bloodthirsty or if you're very passive, it actually changed the way that people interacted with you. Do people interact depending on if they'll help you or not, even if you aren't necessarily, if you're neutral, depending on if you're Emily or Corvo? Because Emily is the Empress who just got usurped, right? And Corvo is an assassin who almost was betrayed in the Game 1. So are there people more willing to help Emily or Corvo in this game?
It's more that how you play, either ghostly and avoiding killing and trying to find an alternate clever solution for things, or whether you play very, very violently. By the way, this is the start of the Clockwork Mansion material. I'm going to interrupt myself for a second. We saw this this is the urban area before the mansion. Kieran Jindosh lives here. He's the inventor of the Clockwork Soldier. And we saw this this is Emily's Shadow Walk power, by the way.
It's so creepy.
Most of her powers relate to, like, controlling other people, mesmerize, domino, linking their fate so they share the same fate. But she's also an empress who grew up as a little girl in a palace who had a very bad moment of darkness in her life. And so Shadow Walk is kind of like the power in the middle of all the other powers. It's like a punctuated moment of darkness. Here she's dominoing together some guys. So if she kills one of them, they all die. They all get beheaded. And this is... like in the announcement trailer where we showed the Clockwork Mansion, it was not in engine, it was rendered. But now you're seeing like the actual version in our engine, which is just gorgeous.
Ooh, it really is. Is there a character that you would say is preferable for stealth mode or for killing everyone?
No, we don't approach it like that. We give the full range of options. Corvo can play very violently or ghostly and not kill anyone. Emily can do the same. They have their own animations for assassination and fighting for sure, so you feel bodily like you're in a different first-person character. That said, their powers are totally different. So Corvo's powers from the first game are all back. They're all deepened now with these trees. If you summon rats, you can summon 2 swarms of rats, or a larger swarm, or a swarm that follows you. All those powers have been upgraded. But Emily's are all new: Domino, Shadow Walk, Mesmerize, Bone Charm Crafting, etc.
Yeah, so you can get really creative with how you're going to solve the level and how you're going to advance. So playing the game 2 times will be definitely worth it, because you can like try out as Corvo or as Emily.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something that a lot of people, or not necessarily a lot of people, but in game 1 they saw that with the advancement of those abilities that the game maybe became a bit easy for them. Is there something that those hardcore, like die-hard, try-hards are going to be able to play in Dishonored 2 that will satisfy their need?
Do you want to answer this or no? Okay, this is. I feel like all the questions are related to gameplay and lore right now, so. But I'll take this one too. Yeah, so there were many, many things we heard from players. We interact with our community a lot, and there were many things we heard that people loved, and so we doubled down on those in Dishonored 2 for sure. And I can give you details on that if you want. But there were always about 5 things we heard that players wished they were a little different or improved. And one of those was, we hear from a small contingent of players that are very hardcore that are like, I wish there was a harder mode. And so, you know, you can already, there are 4 different difficulty modes, and they changed the stealth settings and how healing works and all of that. They change how perception of enemies work and the AI. So you can put it on very hard mode, and it's already harder. But the fact is, you're a supernatural assassin. So you have all these amazing mobility and crowd control and damage powers, right? Escape powers. And so people felt like that maybe made the game a little too easy. Now, again, this is not the average player. This is like a group of mutants that are superstars. People like Stealth Gamer BR or Volhound, the guys that stream amazing acrobatic feats of ballet death.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen those compilation
oh my
videos.
God,
They're
yeah.
fantastic.
It's great.
What about the speedrunners?
The team loves it. We love the speedrunners too, and we've actually brought Volhund into the studio to advise us on what to do for people who stream gameplay and people who do speedruns. But anyway, back to the question. We have all that, and we also have enemies now like the Clockwork Soldier that have vision cones in the front and behind, so they're much harder to deal with. But we also have a new mode where when the outsider offers you his mark, which is the gateway to supernatural powers, literally in the game you can say, no, I've had enough of your gifts. I don't want anything from you. And you can play the entire game Flesh and Steel, no powers mode, which requires you to fight, sneak, climb, lean around corners, eavesdrop, do all of that stuff without any supernatural powers. And so the game gets a lot more intense.
Okay, so concerning, like, I would like to talk a bit about the engine you guys are using. You're using the Void engine again, and you've modified it this time probably to like work a bit better. Like, what have you changed about the engine, and why have you chosen to like use an own engine that you've created on your own?
Because to us this is the best solution to create this kind of game. For level design reason, for scripting, for AI. We design systems, we don't script everything. And for the art too. The opportunity came because we were moving from a generation to a new generation of consoles. And this was a lot of discussion with the tech guy, with Hugues Tardif, about the rendering, because I wanted to keep this mood, this style to the game. Mm-hmm. And we've developed our shaders, our lighting, the way we display polygons, etc. So that was a huge challenge, very hard during the process, during the production. But at the end, it really pays off, so that was cool to do that.
The results are amazing. I mean, I don't have anything to do with the art. It's all these guys, the rendering guys and the art guys, and they straddle this line between photoreal and painterly, and their inspirations, talking to them and working with them, are much less modern movies and modern games, and they're more like the master painters and the classic works of art. So I feel like we're all very privileged to work with the programming and art teams that we work with at Arcane.
Is there a reason you went with that direction?
Sorry, what that?
Is there a reason that you went with that particular direction for the art? Was it for more immersion?
I think because I come from the fine arts education. Lots of people in Lyon are from the same school as me, Emile Cole, and we really love like handcrafting stuff, painting, sculpting. And what about bringing it into the a game?
Oh, I mean, speaking about painting, there was a
Instead of-
boss, right?
Yeah. So that's why we have this touch, because of the people who really loves that. The reference we have, the master painter. We do photo trips. We go on site. We take picture. We take notes, and we bring it
So
back.
nice.
Speaking about painting, is there a possibility of Delilah coming back?
Have you seen her already?
Yeah, so people have figured out that Delilah is back in the game, and she's a character we absolutely love. And she's not just a cartoon villain, she has her own motives. She's interesting to us both in terms of story. Working with our narrative designer, Sashka Duval, we put a lot of love into Delilah and her faction in the game. But also visually speaking, she's an amazing character. And so you can see little bits of Delilah and the Duke of Serkonos at the beginning of the game, and some of the footage we've released where you see flashes of the coup that happened.
So when working on a sequel, I guess you guys are all about improving what you've done before, and so my question would be, is there anything particular you didn't like in Dishonored, which now in Dishonored 2 is like much better, much more improved, which you've worked on, where you say, wow, this is now working out much better for us?
Outside of the difficulty.
Yeah, outside of the difficulty.
Yeah, I mean, if you list those 4 or 5 things that we heard from fans, the difficulty is a very minor one because it's a small number of people that complain about that. And I understand that. We want to provide a range. We want practically, if you just want to follow the story and walk through the world and absorb the atmosphere, we want to support that. But on the other hand, if you want a super difficult challenge, drop attacking people from a 5-story building, taking on larger groups of guards or fighting the Clockwork soldiers, getting through the entire game with no one even detecting you. There's a community of people that do that, by the way. They don't just not get caught or not killed. They also try to get through the game without the AI ever knowing they were there. So everybody stays in their relaxed mode, talking about what they had for dinner or having overheard conversations that you can listen to. But anyway, so the difficulty was definitely one of them, but there were other points we wanted to. We broadened the roles for women in the game. In the first game, we absolutely loved Dishonored 1, but almost all the women in the game are either like little girl, queen, prostitute, servant. It's a very narrow range of roles, and it's an important thing for representation, right? So in the DLC, Knife of Dunwall or the Brigmore Witches, even we had a union leader, we had a lawyer, we had an accountant. Just like a little bit of thought goes a long way. If you think about broadening the roles for people in the world, it just makes the world richer. But that said, there's also 2 or 3 other things. People complain that the endings were too binary, and that's a legit complaint. The new ending system is pretty crazy. It's a hybrid of branching decisions you make as you play through the game, who you support, who you kill, who you don't kill, which side missions you do. And then it's also, for each of the variations of the endgame, there's a high chaos and low chaos version of it. And sometimes there's even a very high chaos version of it.
How many endings are there?
It's hard to even say because it's now broken into 4 chunks.
Yeah.
And each chunk has different states, right? The first part of the ending has maybe 6 states and then a high-low chaos for each one. And then the next one has maybe 4 states with higher low chaos for each one. And then there's a couple of smaller states that are appended to the end. And any of those work in combination with any of those others. And so just like this permutations of ending that you'll feel like you crafted your story as you played. And then also people talked about how it felt like high and low chaos just boiled down to, did you kill more than 20% of the people in the world or less than 20% of the people? And so that's still somewhat true, but now we have a system where dynamically at the start of the game, we take the population of the level and we set their morality kind of randomly. So the average guards walking around can either be sympathetic people, guilty people, or murderous people.
And that's the problem I had in the first game, is I felt bad killing the people that I knew were just doing their job, right?
Yeah, so this time you can use the heart, this artifact in the game that whispers secrets about people. You can use the heart to tell you something about a character, and what it might say about a given guard. Like it might say, she works an extra shift to support the orphan kids that live down the street from her or something.
Is that an actual example?
There's a more elegant version of that that's actually in the game. On the fly, that's the best version I could give you. But that's a good example of like a character that's doing something for other people in the world. that if you kill that character, you're destabilizing society, right? And then there's the guilty guy who's like, yeah, he's cheating on his wife and he's cheating on his mistress or whatever, right? So you may have whatever reaction you have to that, and you can decide whether that's just human, or no, that he deserves to die for that. And then there's the murderous character, which is like, this old woman takes people in as tenants and murders them for their retirement funds and buries them in the basement. And so you're like, okay, the point here, game mechanically, is each of those characters is weighted differently in terms of how much chaos they generate in terms of destabilizing society. So the sympathetic character is worth less points, the murderous character is worth more, and there's a default value for the guilty character. And so that alone, that dynamic, that sort of procedural generation of the morality at the start of the levels, and allowing you the tools of the heart to discern how violently you want to move through the world or how ghostly you want to be in terms of avoiding all that, that's new, and that's much more nuanced than last time.
Yeah, it's super interesting how, like, I really enjoy when games go out and say, like, okay, you can do these choices, but no matter how you decide, at some point you might up ending up doing something bad, or something, you think you're doing something good, but in the end maybe you're killing a character that, as you said, like, he takes care of orphans. So I really like when the player has to start thinking about, all right, which way I'm going to use, which way I'm going to choose. So for Dishonored, in the first part, how is this, like, how the ending from the first game, how is this maybe influencing Dishonored 2? Like, what is the basic setup?
Most of the time we don't have to care about that because 15 years have passed, and so we have to assume Emily survived, because Emily can die in the first game, of course. But usually we don't go into detail about whether you killed the Pendleton twins in the Golden Cat mission, or you shaved their heads, cut out their tongues, and put them to work in their own silver mines. We don't have to actually come down on one side or the other of that. So we're not really violating what you did in the game. In a few cases, we've chosen this character survived because we think the outcome for that character was more interesting. But we don't do anything like go to your Xbox 360 and load up the save game or whatever. We don't do anything like that because the console cycle changed, and anyway.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about console a little bit. There's not going to be too much difference between the PC and the console plays, right?
You know, the usual differences. You can expect, you know, a controller with a console. You can lay on your couch more easily, I guess. PC people will have all the PC support that they normally expect. So.
Okay, yeah. So basically, the game will come out in November, and you guys are probably already really hyped about how it's going to be. Is there something that you put probably a lot of stuff in the game that players from the first game will find and be like, oh my god, wow, I recognize this, I've seen this. Is there something particular that you would like to say and maybe give a hint at the first Easter eggs people can find?
You have an answer for that?
No.
Things from the first game?
I want to avoid the spoilers.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean,
do you go back
can
to
talk
Dunwall?
about the DLCs or the...
Yeah, I mean, the Knife of Dunwall and the Brigmore Witches are DLC for Dishonored 1, and they kind of serve as a bridge to Dishonored 2. So, you know, we have little bits of lore like Delilah and things like that that are relevant. Anton Sokolov was kind of a mentor character in the first game, and he's back. But I guess the broader answer to the question is there are layers and layers of secrets in the way we approach the Dishonored world. We don't just present anything openly. And some of those are buried, and people will continue finding them for the next couple of years, I think. And some of them are right in your face, and you've already been exposed to them, and people haven't picked up on some of them, right? So we have a very layered, sort of like opaque, murky approach to presenting the world, because we think as you move through the world and you figure out bits, the part you figure out will be different than the part other players figure out, and you'll have a very different experience. And it feels like your mind is more engaged. You're inferring things in a very active way.
And you can probably learn something new every time you play through it. And with that, is there any kind of bonuses to continuing a playthrough from the first time to the second time? Do you get to keep any of your abilities? Do you get to, are there upgrades? Because I know in Dishonored 1, people wanted to be able to max out all of their abilities, right? But you couldn't do that unless it was some kind of mod, I believe. So is there something in Dishonored 2 which allows people to maybe go even further into their abilities and play their character over again?
Yeah, I can't talk about all of our plans around this, and again, like Sebastian said, I don't want to spoil some stuff, but like, I would just say in general, the game is tuned so that when you start the game, we want you to have a clean slate and make new choices. Because if you play one time as Corvo, high chaos, and then you play another time as Corvo, low chaos, and one time you focus on possession and upgrading blink, and another time you focus on bend time and all the tricks you can do with that, and rat swarm, you will have a very different experience. And not only that, but like one time you went one path, another time you took another path, another time you took a third path. The world is riddled with pathways, and then you can take the violent approach or look for all the non-lethal solutions. And then on top of that, you can play Emily and have a completely different set of powers and choose a different pathway this time, and hear their commentary on the world that feels different. Their fighting style feels a little different, you know? So I would definitely say that our approach favors giving you, each time you embrace the game, you start the game, you have to make new choices, and you feel like you've had a different experience.
Yeah, totally. So I'm basically super excited for how it's going to be like, and also for you probably embracing loads of new players and loads of new people coming to the Dishonored universe. Is there anything like for a start? So you're basically getting people off with an easy start, and you talked about the skill system. So I would like to know how the skill system is starting off easy and then getting in depth, and you can customize it. How it's going to work?
Yeah, I mean, we have the choice of character, of course. And that unlocks a different set of active powers, right? Same enhancements, which are our passive powers. I misspoke earlier when I listed Bone Charm Crafting as an Emily power. It's actually available to both of them. And as you find more runes through the world, you can upgrade your powers in different ways. The trees for both of them are more detailed, much more detailed this time. Bone Charm Crafting is an interesting thing. As you play, you find more bone charms, and you can break them down, and you get the traits and the raw whalebone to create your own. And as you upgrade that, you can make very powerful bone charms. So you can make a playthrough with where bone charms are actually a huge difference maker. You can make bone charms with up to 4 traits. And then on top of that, there are weapon mods. As you go through the world, you can upgrade your weapons. And we found there are black market shops scattered all through the world, and that's where you go to buy new things and upgrade your weapons. But we've found a way to change weapon upgrading a bit. At the high end of weapon upgrading, there are these Masterwork Upgrades now, and they're all named. Like one of them is called Red Siblings, which gives you a burst of 3 shots that are quite lethal. You know, so you can decide whether you upgrade your crossbow or your pistol one way or the other. They're at the sort of high end. There are these mutually exclusive Masterwork Upgrades.
Is anything else that you want to add that we may not have touched on that you think the fans are really interested in?
Have you talked about the powers trees?
Yeah, a little bit, but not too much.
I think they will enjoy this.
Yeah, so, you know, we're super excited about the game. We hope people love it as much as we do. And a lot of work has gone into making it so that if you've never played a Dishonored game, you can dive right in, and it's this epic fantasy story in a kind of a novel setting. You know, it's not the classic dragons and dwarves kind of setting or you know, sci-fi universe setting or whatever. It's this alt-Victorian world, and it's really interesting. A lot of love has gone into the layers and layers of history. So new players, I think, will enjoy it. But also, I have to say, the work that we've put into supporting the fan community and into paying off things, we believe in leaving mystery, right? We don't answer all the questions, but this time we've answered some of the ones from last time, and we've asked new questions as well. So it's something for both types of players, I think.
Well, you mentioned that there was probably 4 or 5 complaints, or not necessarily complaints, but issues that people had with the prior game.
I did say complaints.
You listed 2 of them. Are you okay to talk with the other 3 and something that you focused on to make sure that didn't happen in Dishonored 2?
Yeah, I guess I kind of feel like I covered most of them, right?
Okay.
Like the difficulty, for some players, they wanted more difficulty. Some players wanted the game to be a little bit longer. Most players were totally comfortable with that, but because I think the first game was on average 10 or 12 hours or something, but the new game is a few hours longer. Then it has 1 mission more, and each of the missions is a little larger, maybe 20% larger or something.
It depends on missions.
Yeah, and it really depends on how you play. We have people who complete a playthrough in 20 hours. We have people who
still have the Void.
Yeah, we have the Void back.
So in Dishonored...
The other point is we added voice to the characters. So there were a lot of people that were like, hey, Corvo was kind of cold and flat, and so For Emily, she's voiced by Erica Luttrell, who's just like, we're super lucky to get her. She's amazing. She brings this textured quality where Emily sounds both savvy, crafty, educated, from a posh background, but also touched by darkness at some point. And Stephen Russell, the voice of Garrett in the original Thief, he's playing Corvo. And he brings this like world-weary like gravity where he's a man who's seen too much, you know? So that's another thing that I guess people said, this could be better, and we listened and we made that change.
Okay, Dishonored 2, released just around the corner in November. We're really, really excited about it. We'll be right back after a short break here from Gamescom 2016, so just stay where you are, we'll be right back.
Welcome to TwitchCon 2015!